Let's play hockey!
Hockey Day of Minnesota is an annual event that is kind of owned by Fox Sports North and the Minnesota Wild, and they partner with a local community or a community partner, such as Serving Our Troops is, for the 9th annual event. It's an event that has taken place throughout the state of Minnesota in different locations, and this year it's going to take place at Holman Field in St. Paul. Hockey Day Minnesota 2015, with Serving Our Troops as the host, is the first ever event of its kind held on an active airfield. It's very unique, and we're very excited for it.
We're here with Serving Our Troops as part of Hockey Day Minnesota. And Serving Our Troops started about 10 years ago, where a bunch of us were sitting at Mancini's Char House having a steak, and we just thought it wasn't fair that we were sitting at Mancini's having a steak and our soldiers fighting overseas couldn't have the same thing, you know? So we decided that we would figure out a way to get soldiers a steak overseas. And now, 10 years later, we've done 10 projects and served 80,000 steaks to largely Minnesota National Guard soldiers overseas, while at the same time live linking their families via video where the families are having a steak in St. Paul. So 10 projects later, our mission is still the exact same. You know, it's to serve soldiers and families just a really great meal. You know, a nice meal that may not get when they're deployed overseas. To send a message, it started with St. Paul, but now it's a message from all of Minnesota that says, hey, you know what, we're thinking about you. We're thinking about the soldiers, we're thinking about their families back home. And then third is a message to the rest of Minnesota that Minnesota National Guard members are deployed in harm's way all over the world. And so it has always been about the steak for us. This time it's different. You know, we're kind of doing it with the state of hockey.
Fox Sports North and the Minnesota Wild requested and almost required us in order to hold this event in this location to have climate-controlled ice and chilled ice. We looked for a local partner too, which we found in PCL Construction, who assembled a team of other contractors who helped create the base that this rink is on, and it required building a giant sandbox filled with 600 cubic yards of sand. They did this all volunteer and made a contribution probably worth $100,000 or more in order to prepare a site for ice rink events to come in and construct the ice that we're standing on now. One of the requirements was that we get a chiller brought to the field here that would essentially chill glycol that runs in half-inch tubing underneath the ice at about spaced about 1 inch apart, but essentially all the way across, and every square inch of this ice is covered by it. So once all those tubes are down, then the dasher boards were installed, and they began flooding.
Part of Hockey Day Minnesota here at Holman Field, right in St. Paul, right off downtown, right behind me. And we're saying thank you, and we're sending our message in the form of another great Minnesota tradition, which is hockey. And we have a lot of things happening this weekend, you know, for Hockey Day Minnesota. But the mission is still the same for Serving Our Troops, which is to send that message of support from communities. We got 15 hockey games here with young people and police and fire, and the Minnesota National Guard versus the Canadian National Guard or the Canadian Battle Company. We've got the Minnesota Warriors, which is a veterans team, playing the Buffalo Sabres Warriors. And then we've got all sorts of St. Paul youth hockey organizations playing on Sunday, which is really fabulous. So it's going to be a great weekend for St. Paul. It's a great weekend for hockey fans, for Minnesota's youth. And really when it comes down to it, it's a great weekend for soldiers and families. Family members of currently deployed soldiers of the Minnesota National Guard will be VIPs on site here. They'll be able to get in free and have free food and beverage, and it's really a message to them. We have about 300 Minnesotans that are currently deployed at Camp Barriero in Kuwait, and their families will be here. We have a team actually of folks that are on their way to Kuwait, and they'll be in Kuwait, and we're going to live video link, just like we do with the steak dinner. For dinner with the family, this is hockey day with the family.
So it's just been a blast to be involved in the activities and feel like you're part of the celebration back home.